So let's go on to one that I am super excited about.
This is one of
Dream
Ewan's.
Demon.
Yes. Have
I
you
saw
seen
the
it?
title. I was like, "That's one of Ewan's." So I'm like,
I have seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it too.
It's the two key words there, dream and demon.
And
You have seen it, have
the
you?
artwork.
Yeah, this artwork came from Christopher Shy, who's also done artwork for a title that we actually teased last year, Darkness, which is still to be formally announced. But yeah, worked. Well, the film came to us from director Harley Coakless, who made before this in the early 80s made a kind of a Mad Max style dystopian action movie called Battle Truck, which I was very familiar with, which I used to have on VHS knocking around the house, and my dad was a big fan of it, and he was always saying how the opening sequence is one of his, thinks it's one of his favorite opening sequences to any film. So that's quite a strong recommendation. So I was familiar with Harley's work from that, and he was also second unit on Empire Strikes Back.
Yep.
So he goes to quite a lot of Star Wars conventions and does all that sort of thing. But he's been based in London for many years, since before Dream Demon, and the film came to us through him. And because he's local, I've spent a lot of time working with him on putting this release. So he's really kind of been like very involved in shepherding the release and getting together the cast and crew. He actually had. It's a great story, really. I mean, the film has been it kind of sort of fell into obscurity. It was produced by Palace Pictures, who were in the 80s. They were kind of a big British. Well, they started out as a video label in the UK, and they brought Nightmare on Elm Street and Evil Dead to Britain. So they were kind of they're a very memorable company in this country for kind of genre movies, and they went into production. They also made Neil Jordan's Company of Wolves, and they produced Dream Demon. Strangely, many of the companies that were involved in the distribution of the film towards the end of the 80s went bankrupt. Not related to Dream Demon, I should add. But so the film kind of sort of fell by the wayside, really, and it sort of got lost in sort of the late 90s, early noughties, and was kind of consigned to, rips on YouTube. And Harley, the director, kind of made it his sort of personal quest to unearth the film, and he managed to track down the original negative of the movie. Nice. And it was actually sort of happenstance at the time that he was doing that. The BFI, the British Film Institute, was running a program called Unlocking Film Heritage, which was, they provided the funding for the restoration of the film. So he was able to restore the movie. He actually made some tweaks to the film, to the ending of the film, because he always felt, I won't ruin it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but he always felt that the ending of the movie he wasn't quite happy with how it tonally left off, and he wanted to tweak it a little bit. So he was able to do that, and he re-released this new edited version in 2017 on the festival circuit as a director's cut. I should add that we have included the original cut of the film on there as well, because obviously people want to see the film as it was originally released. But yeah, so it's really been a delight working with Harley really closely and getting this film that he's extremely close to, getting it back out there. And we've been lucky enough to get some great interviews with cast and crew. Gemma Redgrave, it was her first. She's a well-known British actress. It was her first feature role. We were able to get an interview with Bill Nelson, who's a composer and kind of a musical pioneer who's kind of been active in many bands since sort of 60s, 70s, 80s. He provides a really fantastic score. And yeah, it's been a big project, and really happy to get it out there, and hopefully some people will be discovering this film for the first time.
Very nice.
Yeah, it's definitely, it's something that came out after Nightmare on Elm Street, but
yeah,
I don't. It's not really a Nightmare on Elm Street ripoff at all.
Not at all.
Well, in fact, the producer Paul Webster, who's gone on to do some really big movies. It was his first production project, and he quite openly says, because he became a producer through working at Palace, which distributed Nightmare on Elm Street in the UK. And he freely says that Dream Demon was conceived basically as a kind of a cash-in on Nightmare on Elm Street. So that was really the sort of jumping off point for the film, and the whole kind of rubber reality, nightmare, based horror movie. But in the hands of director Harley Cokeless, he kind of elevated the material and brought in a lot of his own kind of influences, and it went from being this kind of what was meant to just be a sort of cheapy Nightmare on Elm Street cash-in to something quite different. And it's a really interesting film. It's from a period in Britain, when it's quite unique for its time. There wasn't a huge number of horror movies, certainly sort of serious-minded horror movies coming out of Britain at that time. Aside from Hellraiser, which it's probably its nearest kind of kin, I think. So that's how it was kind of conceived, but it sort of took on a different kind of life